Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about like discussions, because this will all of your groups will be about like you leading your discussion. So help me think of a time when you've had to like sit down and have a discussion. When might that occur? Yes.
Maybe like in reading, like back at the table, like
Okay.
about connections.
In reading group, when you're talking about connections. So, but who kind of is telling you, like, who's really asking the questions in that group? Miss Whitworth? Okay, so in book clubs, you're going to be asking each other the questions, though. Miss Whitworth won't be sitting there saying, turn to page 5, what did you think about? Or, why do you think the character blah, blah, blah? She won't be there to do that for you. So that's you taking responsibility for your learning. When else might you have a discussion? Yes?
When you're reading at the back table, you can connect ideas.
Okay, so when you're reading with Miss Whitworth and you connect ideas, think about a time when you're not at reading groups. Miss Whitworth?
What do you guys do at lunchtime?
Talk. And ask questions.
So maybe that's a time. Do you guys ever have discussions when you're sitting at lunch? It doesn't have to be about reading.
Yeah. We just talk about things.
That's a discussion.
It is.
Yes. Anybody sit around the dinner table
Yeah.
with other people?
Yeah. But I don't get
Do you sit by yourself every night?
I don't sit by myself, but I sit in the living room. We really sit.
Okay, so do you have a discussion with your family?
I don't sit. Yeah.
In my house, we have family meetings. And sometimes if we're having a problem, my kids will even call a family meeting and we have to sit down and have a discussion. Yeah. When else might you have a discussion? Yes? Grade cards, okay, so you're talking about big things to have a discussion about.
Maybe at recess we talk about like the weekend or what you did.
Yeah, just for fun, right? You have a discussion. It doesn't always have to be like about sitting down and learning something, or like somebody's in big trouble, or it has to be a big deal. Teachers see each other in the hallway and they'll stop and have a little discussion and be like, hey, how'd math go today? And I'll be like, oh, my kids really got it. That's a discussion, just a quick little chat. So what are some more? I like your idea, because discussions are, most of our discussions we have are usually fun. So when else might you have a fun discussion? You're full of ideas today. Go ahead.
Maybe if you're like at the store and you see somebody that you know and you like go say hi or something.
Yeah, you run into somebody you know and you have a little chat.
Like if you're in the car driving somewhere.
You have a discussion with your family. Yep, okay.
After school, we're
Hanging out with friends. We have discussions all day, every day about lots of different things. Adults sometimes have really formal, fancy discussions and like have a meeting. And then it can just be like picking up the phone and saying like, hey, how are you feeling today? That's a discussion, just different kinds.
so bad.
So your discussions in book group will be a little bit formal, because you're all going to be meeting about a particular thing. But we want it to be fun too, because we want it to be interesting to you. And so that's why you're going to be in charge of learning, and Miss Whitworth isn't going to be like, this is what you're supposed to do today. Sometimes don't you just want to read because you love it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes as teachers though, we have to say like, this is what you're going to talk about, but we still want it to be fun for you. So that's what we are going to talk about. Let's talk about rules, what you think rules might be. And rules, I don't like rules, let's not say rules. What do you think are good ways that people have like a discussion? If you want to write them down, that'd be great if you want to. What might be like an understanding that we all have about what should happen in a group?
Maybe like you shouldn't be talking about like you shouldn't be talking off topic. Like you should be talking about.
Totally, that is a great idea. So staying on topic. Okay.
We want to call these guidelines or rules.
taking turns, being respectful. So I'm concerned. Are you concerned? Are you not concerned? I'm concerned about your learning, so you should probably turn around. Okay, yeah, that's exactly right. Not talking when somebody else is talking. But that happens all the time in conversation, right? When you're talking on the phone, you take turns talking. When you're sitting at lunch, you take turns talking. Unless you're an interrupter, and sometimes I'm an interrupter, and that's really rude, and I shouldn't be. Go ahead.
Maybe like you shouldn't take like if you just start talking about the book and you're like talking like crazy fast and you're just like interrupting people, you should like take a little turn and not like take the whole time, and it shouldn't be really long.
Yeah, and if you see that like you're doing that to your group or somebody else in your group's doing that, it's going to be up to you to say, hey, wait a minute. You've really talked a lot about this. I appreciate what you have to say here, but now it's like someone else's turn to talk. Yeah. Okay. What else? What would you do if you were having a conversation with somebody?
I would wait until someone's done and then I would talk.
Okay. Taking turns. Great. What else?
Well, like when somebody else is talking, don't like be making noise or something.
Don't be an interrupter. How about have something to talk about, right? You're not just going to sit and like stare at each other and be like, so I don't even know what to say here. So when you're reading, you're going to have to be thinking, what am I thinking here? And be ready to share that back in group. Yep.
Like if you have something to say and you're not for sure, like maybe just like ask somebody, like don't be like afraid to say like what you're going to say about the book.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you can't be afraid of your ideas. You have to be comfortable, and that has a lot to do with trust in your group too. You want to be able to trust that if you share something that you really enjoy about a book, that someone else is going to be really listening respectfully and appreciate what you have to say and not be like, well, that's dumb. Yeah, we wouldn't say anything like that. Yes.
Talk about something that's appropriate for school.
Yes. So what you're reading will be appropriate for school. So your conversation should be too. That's exactly right. Yep. I had another thought, but it left my mind. I'm gonna wait for Miss Whitworth to finish that. Do you have another idea? What did you eat for breakfast? Okay, everybody needs to have cereal, like her for breakfast.
Waffles.
She's full of great ideas. Go ahead.
Maybe like don't don't be rude to the person. Like listen to them, and like, if you have a question about what they're saying, like and try to ask questions about what they're saying, and like.
You reminded me of what I was going to say. So sometimes if you don't have something to talk about, then your friend will say something about the book, and then that'll give you an idea. It's called piggybacking. That's kind of funny. It's kind of weird. So if you say something, and then it makes my brain think about something, and then I want to share to that too. So you say something about a character, and then I kind of respond to that. So you keep the conversation going. Go ahead.
You like don't want to like boss around people in your group, or you want to be like respectful.
Yeah, there isn't going to be one person in charge. You guys are all going to be equal in taking turns talking.
Be like nice to the people in the group that you're with. Don't be like kind of like innocent. Like don't be bossy, but like try to interfere with the group. Like not in a bad way, but in a good way. Because like you don't want to just sit in the corner and like sit by yourself and be sterile. Yeah,
no, everybody has to contribute to the group. And there's something else we'll talk about a little later too. But there's a sheet that you'll fill out when you're finished, and you get to say like if everybody contributed to the group or if one person really wasn't doing their job. And then that's probably something that Ms. Whitworth will have to talk to that person about. So you need to make sure that everybody's doing equal amounts.
If someone doesn't understand a word in the book, when it's your turn to read, don't keep reading on in the book. Just tell, if you don't know what it means either, you stop and you can ask someone if they know what it means, or you can try and figure out what it means.
Help me understand why that's important.
It's important because if they don't understand a word, it could be in a sentence that's really important to the main topic of the story.
Right.
And they might not understand the whole story.
You might miss the author's main point because you're skipping over a word, right? Yes.
Like being part of the group doesn't start off with safe because you can miss important stuff in the story, and when it's time to like write your connections, you wouldn't know what to write.
Brilliant. We're gonna wrap this up.
Make sure you're reading, make sure you're following along, because if they're gonna ask you a question and you don't know where you are, then you're not gonna know what to write or anything. So you know, stay reading with the book and don't
Some of your reading though might happen on its own. You might be reading the story on your own, but then you come back together to talk about it. I think the only time you might be reading in group is if you're like, hey, let's all turn to page 5 and read that first paragraph together because I didn't understand this piece. So that might be the only time where you're having to read in front of each other. Unless Miss Whitworth planned something different.
If somebody's sharing, don't keep reading your book, stop and listen to what they're saying.
Right. And it'll be up to the group to be like, hey, I need you to help out with the conversation, or I'm feeling like you're not part of the group right now. Yeah, you'll all have to watch that. Okay, so tell me, so just think for a minute, don't shout anything out. Think in your mind, what kinds of things you might talk about. What are some of the things that you might say?
So maybe you want them to think about.
We're gonna just, yeah. What are some things that you might think about?
You might think about the character, how the character is feeling.
Okay, feelings of a character.
How the characters how the characters, how life is going on, how if they don't are upset, sort of feelings.
How the character's feeling, or how your life might be like the characters, or your experiences. Go ahead.
Where is the story taking place?
Parts of the setting, yeah. Characters, setting. Give me something spicier. Like,
Maybe how the character how they did it, how they maybe they're putting something together, maybe how they put together whatever they're making or something.
or maybe how they solved a problem. Yeah.
What's going to happen in the next chapter?
Oh, doing some predicting. Yeah, I wonder. What were you going to say?
If it's a mystery or something, and you're starting and they give you some clues that's happening, you can.
Okay, so one thing I think is really important to remember in group when somebody's talking. You know how somebody's sharing something out and you already have your hand up? If your hand is up while somebody else is talking, that's telling Miss Whitworth that you're thinking about what you're wanting to say and not what the person speaking is saying. So when you're in group, your focus should always be on the person that's talking. Don't always be thinking about what you want to say next, okay? So make sure you're a careful listener, because good discussion, good conversation doesn't happen if you're trying to run the conversation or if you're constantly thinking about your thinking. You also need to think about what the other person is thinking and saying. Some of the things that you might say in group are I agree, and Miss Whitworth will go over these with you also, and I'll give you a paper that says them. What if you said, if you're saying I agree, what if you don't? What might you say?
I don't agree.
I don't agree, or
I disagree.
I disagree. Or if someone says something and you piggyback off of it, you could say, well, I'd like to add. That might be some of the language that you use. You could say, I don't understand. That might be something you say in group. Or the evidence from the text is, or the author says, and then you could go back to that page and find that spot. So if you say, I think the character was feeling sad there. The other person's like, what made you think that? You could flip back to the page and say, well, right here when the author said blah, 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 that's what helped me understand the character might be sad. Like I think the author meant, the I wondering, or that made me think about, like if you're making connections, anything you're noticing. So you might say like, I noticed here, but you're really thinking about the author's words and then what your thinking is like as you're reading. Yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry, Dalton. I didn't even see your hand up here.
You can also share ideas whenever you're like reading a book, and you can like make a discussion about what you're reading in your book.
Good. Okay, so we are going to read a very interesting article for 4th grade, and it's about school. And you roll your eyes. You did roll your eyes. You totally rolled your eyes. But guess what? I would probably roll my eyes too if you told me I had to read about school. But this one's going to be a little bit exciting, okay? So we're going to read it today. You're going to take it and follow along. I'm going to read it out loud so that everybody gets the words. And then after I've read it out loud, you're going to read it yourself and do some think writing. And then tomorrow when I come back in, and you guys like cheer, because I'll be back in tomorrow. No? Okay. So when I come back in tomorrow, we're going to practice having a discussion. And you guys kind of like get to grade. Are you for real sighing again? You so underestimate me. You will be so excited by the time tomorrow comes. Okay, you guys ready for the article?
No.
Who said no? Okay. There you go. Who else said no? Did you say no? You're missing out. You can choose to not learn today if you want to. I can't make you learn. That's for you to decide. Here's extras. What are you laughing about? What are you laughing about? The title. See, but I told you you're totally missing out. Are you sure you don't want to learn today?
I'll read it now.
Do you want to learn or not learn? Yeah, what? Yeah, you want to learn? Okay, Miss Whitworth, we need 2 more then. I didn't get one for myself. Okay, you ready to follow along?
Yep.
So be thinking about your thinking. And here's my rule though, you're not allowed to blurt out anything. Because as soon as you blurt, your ideas get stuck in someone else's head and then they become their ideas. Your ideas become their ideas. Blah, blah, blah. Okay? So right now I just want you doing your own thinking. And this is in Missouri, actually, just so you know. School spankings may soon be against the law in Missouri. Did you guys know that it was legal?
Yep.
That you could really honestly get spankings in school? Did you know that? Okay. I haven't heard of it happening for a very long time, but anyway, this is the article. And this is a kid's article, so it was made for kids. School spankings may soon be against the law in Missouri. And this was in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Anybody know what that is? Anybody know what the St. Louis Post-Dispatch is? Are you kidding me? No one's parents get the Sunday paper?
No, they watch the news.
Your grandpa does? Yeah, okay. Well, it's a, St. Louis Post-Dispatch is a newspaper that is published in St. Louis with lots of news. So, anyway. April 23rd, 2014. So that happened this spring. After getting parents' consent, okay, I'm not really sure how you're reading papers like that. After getting parents' consent, a junior high school principal in Everman, Texas, instituted paddling. What do you think instituted paddling means? Think for a minute. After getting parents' consent, a junior high school principal in Everman, Texas, instituted paddling. Instituted.
Kind of like, almost like they're not doing it anymore.
Okay.
Or like they're debating against it.
So instituted is the opposite of not doing it. So instituted means that you are doing it. So they instituted, they brought in paddling. Jefferson City, Missouri. Jennifer Kavanaugh has been a teacher for 13 years. During that time, she never dreamed of hitting a child, not even once. Kavanaugh is now a 5th grade teacher. She teaches at St. Margaret of Scotland School in St. Louis. Now, when I hear the word St. Margaret, that makes me think that it's a Catholic school, so not public school. Okay? Wow, I'm disappointed that you're wasting learning time. You're not even following along. You want to read it along? Okay, then you need to put that down and follow along. She used to teach at a school where corporal punishment was used. Corporal punishment is spanking. In other words, kids who misbehaved were punished with a spanking. Kavanaugh never used corporal punishment herself, but she knows there are teachers across the state who do. She wants it stopped. Corporal punishment doesn't work, she said. It does not make for a more peaceful, happier child. Already banned in some districts. On Wednesday, Kavanaugh and about 30 of her 5th grade students attended a meeting. It had been called to discuss a bill that would outlaw school spankings in Missouri. A bill is sort of a test run for a new law. So if the state is writing up a bill, it's like they're getting ready to pass new laws. If it passes a vote, it becomes a real law. The particular bill was introduced by Senator Joe Keaveney. We need to stop hitting our kids, Keaveney said. Missouri is one of the 19 states that still allows spanking in schools. Would you use spanking and hitting as the same kind of word?
No.
Some people would, some people would not. But I think it's interesting that the author wrote hitting there. The latest states to outlaw it were New Mexico in 2011 and Ohio in 2009. Many Missouri school districts still allow spanking. In 2009, at least 70 did. A school district usually contains at least several schools, so that's a lot of schools. However, many districts in the St. Louis area do not permit it. These include St. Louis itself, Clayton, Lindbergh, and Riverview Gardens. I know people that teach and work in teach and go to school in those districts. The Ferguson-Florissant district doesn't allow it either. District officials believe there are better ways to react to bad behavior. They range from calling in parents to suspending or expelling students. You know what expelling means?
You
Kicked
are
out.
expelled.
Great. But some districts do allow the practice. About 4,200 students across the state were spanked or physically punished in the 2009-2010 school year. Wow. The Fox School District in Jefferson County used to allow spanking. In the early 2000s, however, it changed its rules. The district no longer sees it as a proper way to punish children, District official Lorenzo Rizzi said. Spanking does not change behavior, he said. Often it just makes things worse. I'm really seeing some strong opinions there. Bill includes private schools. The move away from spanking is happening across the country. During 2009-2010 school year, about 184,500 students were physically punished. 4 years earlier, the number was greater, about 223,000 students. A decrease, however, is not enough for Kavanaugh. She wants to see teachers switch their whole approach. She thinks they should be rewarding students for good behavior. That she thinks works better than punishing them for bad behavior. We need to ask more of teachers, she said. No one spoke against the bill at Wednesday's meeting. So like nobody there decided that spanking was a good idea. You know, they're making this law to say do away with it. Nobody was there to say, hey, we need to keep it. However, State Senator Gina Walsh has problems with it. She thinks including private schools in the bill is a bad idea. Walsh attended Catholic school as a child. So she's a kiddo that went to a school where they allowed, or she's a person that as a kid, she went to a Catholic school where they did spank. And she's saying, keep it. I do not support corporal punishment, she said, but my parents sent me to a faith-based school. I'm opposed to government telling those schools what to do. State Senator Jolie Justice supports the bill. Still, she agrees there could be a problem when it comes to those private schools. I suspect we'll hear from people who don't want the state interfering with private schools, Justice said. At some point, we may need to make some changes. Right now, I haven't heard from anyone who's against it. Lots and lots of opinions in that article. I can probably kind of guess what the author of this, what their opinion is about it, right? Yeah. Okay, so keep your thinking in your own head, but I do want you to get a pencil in your hand. Okay, so I'm going to give you time to read through the article yourself. And while you're going through, you can make note of any problem words that you have, anything that you still don't understand. If you have questions about certain things, write those questions down on your paper next to the words. If you feel like there's something really important, you can underline it. You do whatever you feel like is best to help you remember your thinking tomorrow when we go to talk about it. You have a question?
Well, it isn't a question, but it's a connection.
Okay, I can't hear your thinking right now. We're going to do this tomorrow, and I know you're going to have great things to say about it, but right now we're going to keep our thinking in our brain and on our paper. Is that all right? Okay.
So if you have a question, write it down.
Yep. If you already have that connection, find the part, and then make sure you write it. All right, go ahead and read through the article again on your own and making your own notes about it.
Can they use highlighters?
If you have a highlighter handy, you may, yep.